Welcome to Emerging Truths. Welcome to the future. This guy's an angel, obviously. Right? Wayne Jones. I ran across this guy while watching a YouTube video about America's worst ghettos. The guy would drive through the towns, and this music was what he chose. This guy and others like him, and it just worked so well, and it was just brought tears to my eyes. Don't want to let anyone behind, and now it's the time, and we can do it. It's time to lift all boats. Okay, Wayne, I'm gonna tune you down here. Oh, you're coming to your end anyway. Yeah. Oh, very nice. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, folks. Hi. If I sound a little weird, I have a little dental thing going on. I got something in my mouth, but I can still talk, and really glad that I can be with you again, because it's been a while, and I've been thinking about what to cover next, and I thought tonight we'd cover something kind of light and fun. It's really a great discovery. It's a discovery that is sort of two parts. One is a part that I didn't discover, but I'm going to bring to you, and then the other half is like an additional explanation for a word that appears. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because tonight's story is about, let me close this. It's about Lot's wife. So, as usual, I have to. Hi, how are you guys doing? So we've all heard that what happened to Lot's wife was that she turned into a pillar of salt, and that was one of the more far-fetched sounding parts of the Bible. And in fact, I would wager to say that pastors kind of tried to avoid that one, because it doesn't make sense. Science, has revealed that our bodies are mostly water, so there's not enough solids in our body to, turn into a pillar of salt. I mean, there is a lot of salt in our body, but not that much. So, you probably saw that there was a documentary, probably about 10 years ago, that revisited this story and said, hey, we've discovered that in the area where we think Sodom and Gomorrah were, there's a lot of, little pillars of rock, Is it salt? I can't remember. I don't think so. I don't think there is such a thing as a pillar of salt. So I think it was just pillars, but maybe with a high sodium content. I don't know. Anyway, that was not the explanation, guys. Sorry. The Bible was more clear than that originally, but it got mistranslated. So I say. And so it is Zecharia Sitchin and another guy that I'm going to refer to later, but Stephen Cheer, I think. Well, anyway, pretty much all scholars agree that the actual wording there is mistranslated. And I want to show you exactly what we're talking about here. So let's go to screen share and maybe can I make myself smaller? Coolly cool. Okay. Okay, I'm going to look over here. All right, so here's the actual passage. Genesis 19. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. I should mention that for those who are not biblically literate, let me give you just a quick background on what's happening in this story, okay? So, as many of you probably know, Sodom and Gomorrah was corrupt. They were rich and just decadent. And their decadence led them to acts of despicable evil, which are covered in the book of Jasher. They were truly abominations. Some of the things that you see in movies that the bad guys do, and you just wonder how someone could be that evil. But that's a story for a different time, and I'm going to cover that at a different time. But because they were so bloody evil, Yahweh, I assume he was still in control, sent some angels, and they looked like men, except they were extremely handsome. And this is why Abraham was able to recognize them. And they told Abraham that they were going to destroy this town. And in order to get Abraham's son-in-law, was it? Lot, out of the town and his family. So Abraham, as soon as he heard that the town was about to be destroyed, he was worried about his son-in-law who lived there with his wife, and he wanted to get them out. So the angels assisted in this, but they did warn everyone that as we're making our way out and away from the city, do not look back. That was it. There was no, if you look back, this will happen, that'll happen. It was just don't look back. So guess what Lot's wife does? She looks back. And sure enough, something happened to her the moment she looked back. Now, there's been a lot of theories about, what happened. A lot of people, I think the maybe the most prevalent opinion is that this was some kind of nuclear attack, right, from above. And so she was vaporized because, bombs can do that. Yeah, they can do that, but not in a localized way like that. So that was clearly not what was going on here. I'd also like to mention that something I just realized when I was reviewing this before I came on tonight is that the words seem to indicate that there was two things happening. Brimstone was being, these are, hard rocks or whatever, sulfuric rocks, are being rained down upon the cities in order to cause kinetic damage. And then the other thing that was happening was that fire was coming down from the sky. But what they mean by fire is more like a beam, because fire just doesn't come down as a column. But the Bible, as if you've been watching previous episodes, it talks about fire coming down from heaven to consume the sacrifices. And this is a beam, sort of light, but it's that solid light that UFO people are familiar with, because we've seen it. I haven't seen it, but there's been testimony of seeing this beam that comes down. Get my hand in. Comes down from the ship. It actually descends instead of like just turning on. And I think that was happening. Where does it? It doesn't say exactly in this passage that, let's see, it says brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. So it doesn't really describe the fire. But it could very well be, because of precedent that I've been mentioning, that this was sort of selected beams, selected beams, selected positions of targets that the Elohim up there were trying to destroy. And so they used a combination, looks that way from the words. It would fit with my theory very nicely. So if there were these like beams coming down, as you'll see why in a moment. So when we look at this last sentence here, but his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Now, the Hebrew word translated as salt in this passage is melach, which does indeed mean salt. However, the root of melach is malach, which means to vanish away or dissipate. And I added that I see a connection between these two words. Melach means salt. Malach means vanish away or dissipate. And I think that the reason those two words are related is because kosher salt, especially, when you mix it into water, it just vanishes because it's not as dense as regular salt. I'm not sure if the Hebrews were using kosher salt, but they sure are now. I mean, the Jewish are. And so I think that's why they're related. I think salt of the older days maybe vanished. It might even table salt, does vanish. You just have to stir it a little bit. That's probably why those two words are related. Now, let me show you. Actually, I've got this hyperlinked into Strong's Concordance. So let's look at melach first, which is salt. And let me increase the text size. Okay, so just, hey, salt. That's it. Okay. But the root word here is 04414. And if you click it, nothing happens. Seriously. Okay, here we go. So I clicked it, and I am there now. And this is now Malach. And you can see that the definition of Malach is to tear away, dissipate, to be dispersed, to be dissipated. Now, it also has a secondary meaning of to salt. But so you can see that definitely the words are related. But this dispersion or this dissipation is what really the original authors of this text were trying to say. And I'll give you an example of that, because this word Moloch was used to mean vanish away in the following verse from Isaiah. Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they that dwell therein shall die in like manner. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. Well, this is Isaiah thinking that he's speaking for God. Whether he was or not, I don't know. I'm not really concerned about that right now, but what I'm concerned about is just showing you how this word Moloch means vanish away, and it even adds like smoke. But what it means there, I guess, is, smoke does vanish away. Over time, it dissipates, So again, there's this, it's the dissipation, right? And vanish away. That's Moloch. And that's what happened to Lot's wife. She vanished away. But there is another word in there, isn't there? And that word is pillar. So first, let me credit Zechariah Sitchin for pointing out the Melech-Moloch confusion. But Zechariah didn't address the other word, pillar. And I actually have a theory about that. Recall the pillar of cloud and fire which led the Israelites through the wilderness. What that term might be describing is a column of light which came down from heaven, perhaps much like this mysterious photo of a beam of light, but which is but one of many contemporary examples wherein people have witnessed a beam of light being emitted from a UFO. I just want to mention as a side point that this phenomena here, this is not a trick photo. It's an actual photo, but it's not of a real thing, because it's an artifact of iPhones, and they have a rolling shutter. They have a rolling shutter. And if a lightning strike occurs during the capture of the image, that shutter is sort of painting the image, and there'll be one strip of it that got lit up because of the lightning, and the rest of the photo did not get lit up because the lightning was gone by that time, or before that time, either side of it. So that's how that works. But so when you see these and people try to say they're UFO, I hope we've gotten past that now. But it does make a really good example of what this beam of light may have looked like, because this is kind of cloudy here, So it's great imagery for what we're talking about in the Bible, and that kind of column of light. During the day, it looked like a cloudy pillar, and at night, it looked like a beam of light. So they call it fire. All right, so now returning to the story, we can theorize with some confidence. My little lisp is coming through. That what might actually have happened to Lot's wife is that she became enveloped in a column of light from a pillar, column of light. From above, and vanished away. You can't help but be reminded of Star Trek's transporter beam. And it wouldn't be the first time that such a thing has happened in the Bible. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, there is this fascinating kind of a beam up that was actually witnessed. Now, again, we're talking about the early part of the Old Testament, like the first half, where the Lord actually did like send down this solid beam of light, and when it reached the sacrifice, it would consume it and bring it back up to heaven. Or it would bring it back up to heaven and supposedly consume it. I don't know whether there was something done to the sacrifice and just to right when it was picking it up or not. But the Bible says it consumed it. But it also says that fire came down from heaven. That would be the solid light we're talking about. Now, the thing is that this light doesn't have to burn. It doesn't burn anything. So what happened in this example, I'll just read it from Judges. It's about, but let me give you who Manoah, because I don't know who these people were, but they were a couple, Manoah and his wife, and they had been speaking with an angel about something. And when they were done speaking, the angel went to the area of the altar where the sacrifice was, and this fire came down from heaven, and he stepped into it, and both him and the sacrifice were beamed up right in front of Manoah and his wife. And it says at the end here, let me read it. For it came to pass, when the flame went up toward heaven from off the altar. So that shows you that we're talking about this solid light that moves, up and down. So it came down, and that's why the Bible says it comes down from heaven. And then it raises back up off the altar, and the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. Now, flame, again, we're not talking flames here. The Lord ascended in the beam, and Manoah and his wife looked on it and fell on their faces to the ground. That's pretty amazing that's what they were thinking. Oh my God, that's amazing. So they fell on their faces like, oh, God is here. We are your subservient slaves. Stop that, Larry. So, this palate thing in my mouth is a challenge, but if I get a drink, it might help. Da-da-da. I think we're done with that article, so I can go back to full screen. Oh, yes. All right, so I think some of you might be thinking, are you so sure that that's a mistranslation, Larry? Or are you just speculating, and how much should we really believe what you're saying? Well, as always, I don't ask you to believe me about anything. I just want to show you what I believe from reading these descriptions. Now, I don't know whether this, when this beam came down and she turned into a puff of smoke, basically. That's, or she vanished away. She actually just vanished away. Maybe not smoke, okay. And they saw this, and it was in a beam, apparently, that she vanished away. So it really does seem like Star Trek's transporter beam. And I'm just saying that because it's something we can imagine. I'm not saying it has anything to do with transportation in this case. Is Yahweh cruel enough to simply... he knows... Even the ETs, they can read your mind, right? Which I've been saying recently is very godlike. So some people might say that that God, let's call him God then, if that's what they believe, that God saw into the mind of Lot's wife, and the fact that she expressed her not wanting to leave indicated that she liked that debauchery that was going on in that town or something. Maybe I'm just going off here, but maybe, that's what the pastors do, is they speculate too, right? That she was evil for looking back, therefore she had to be destroyed. That sounds pretty ridiculous, but it could be that she was transported. We know that just from what I've already showed you here tonight, that can happen. Although I'm not sure if, the angel, I'm not sure what density the angel is at. Maybe an angel can do that, even though they look like us. Maybe they're special and they can rise up in this beam. But actually, no, we know about beams, these solid beams that have been taking cows up. So yes, solid flesh can go up in these beams. But was she transported? Did they take her up into the ship and then give her whole witness protection or something, and, a whole new life? That would be a good God. The Old Testament God that I know is capable of some real cruelty. Paul Wallace just mentioned this in his excellent YouTube channel. Paul Wallace, check him out. He's on the leading edge, I think. Although I have some differences with him because some of his one of his recent shows actually questioned whether Jesus died. And I told him in a comment that if you are willing to accept that Jesus didn't die, then you have to throw out all the parts that are in the Gospels about what he did after he came back to life. Because what Paul is saying is that he didn't die. He was spirited away to a cave. He was catered to and revitalized by Joseph of Arimathea, and then brought over to India, where there indeed is evidence, anecdotal evidence, that a Jesus figure was there at about that time, and that he was something else, quite a teacher. So I don't know what to do with that, but I don't think if it did happen, some people say it happened, between the age of 12 and 30, where the Bible doesn't say anything about where Jesus was. But my assumption is that, from the age of 12 until he grew up, he was there. And his mother was there. They were at a wedding together, and she was saying, "Oh, we've run out of wine." Remember that? So, anyway, I don't know what happened to Lot's wife. I don't know. I do know that and I'll cover this in a separate episode about Sodom and Gomorrah, because everyone assumes that they were destroyed because they were sexually homosexuals. In fact, that's where we get our word sodomy from, is this town. It didn't mean what it means now when they named the town after it. Maybe it should have. But actually, the truth is that it wasn't about homosexuality in any kind of major way. It was much more about the evil of these people. And the reason they had become evil was because, the only reason I can imagine is that it's mentioned that they were filthy rich. And well, in fact, Ezekiel himself commented on it. We'll talk about it when we get there. So that's a different episode, and I really want to get to that one because it's important for our gay friends to know that that this was not about punishment of homosexuality. It's another terrible misinterpretation. Although Yahweh was, if it was Yahweh and not Moses, who knows? But Yahweh, if it was Yahweh, I mean, he said that he wanted homosexuals to be stoned. So there's definitely an anti-gay sentiment in Yahweh. But I think he would ask to be excused for that by indicating, by reminding us that what he was trying to do was raise a nation of priests that would draw all men to God. And that's not well known. That's why they're called the chosen people. It wasn't that they were chosen like, I'm going to favor these people. No, it was Yahweh's plan to make them a nation of priests. And as such, he didn't think homosexuals had any place in that. Not the right example. So, Yahweh. I think this is also the same character that said, circumcise your penis. If you want to be my children, you have to be circumcised. And I think the idea was to make sex less enjoyable, because what happens is, all the nerves get exposed. There's no more covering. And as you get older, it's just not, you don't feel much. And that's all thanks to Yahweh. So thank you, Yahweh, for that. God knows I have been down that road so many times, so angry at him for instituting that. But that's the way it was. So yeah, it's not below him to just zap her with a beam and kill her. But for what? Well, maybe he looked into her mind and saw that she really didn't want to leave all her home, and for some reason, maybe he thought she was part of that whole scene. The orgies and the maybe she wanted that. I don't know. I just I can't go any further in speculating. I can tell you what I told you, that he's capable of doing something like that. It almost seems like it was a setup. Like the one person that he didn't want to escape was Lot's wife. But he wasn't going to say anything. He was just going to set it up so that, then he would suggest to her, look back. And then she looks back, and then poof, she's gone. I probably shouldn't poof the microphone. I hope it doesn't reduce my volume for the next 30 seconds like it sometimes does. So that was my light fare for the night. And I, as usual, made lots of diversions. But I'm just fascinated with this, and it's a discovery that sort of clears up one of the biggest stumbling blocks that people had to believing in the Bible. I mean, they could believe all this other stuff about beams of light coming down, and because it was very explicit about that, but but they couldn't believe that a pillar that a person would turn into a pillar of salt, because that just made absolutely no sense. So even with 20th century eyes, we kind of knew that there was something wrong with that. But with 21st century eyes, we see what was really going on. And oddly enough, no one is really clamoring to correct the text. They're just going to leave it pillar of salt. So you don't have to leave it that way anymore. Now you know what really happened. All right, so as a bookend, I'll just go ahead and play that that music again, that lovely music. Except let me find the one that I thought was so awesome. I think it was called... Was it Resolution? Yeah, this is it. Picture those devastated cities. This has been Larry Gurnt with another episode of Emerging Truths. See you next time. We have a bright future, don't worry. Darkest before the dawn. Love you guys. See you next time.